Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Krzysztof Dudek. I'm a member of board of COD Łódź. I would like to welcome you to the panel New Tasks for Pro-Democracy Organizations. The panel has been organized in the framework of Freedom Games by the Committee of Democracy Defend, the most hated organization by peace, law and justice. There are representatives of other organizations that peace, law and justice hate. But before we begin our discussion, let me present to you my panelists. According to the order provided by the organizers, the speakers during the debate today are Robert Hojda, Piotr Łopaciuk, Ewa Topór-Nawarecka, Aleksandra Knapik-Gauza, and of course, a person I don't have to present you. Agnieszka Holland, once again. I am a fan of many organizations, all that are here. Ladies and gentlemen, organizers gave us a task of reflecting on future. But before we discuss what we are planning and which form do we want to achieve our goals, I want to ask for interventions regarding the difficult 8 years of fight with authoritarian government. I would like you to speak about what we've managed, what was a success, what is a failure of organizations, pro-democracy organizations, and what conclusions have you drawn after the 8 years when it comes to the directions of the next activities? Are we still needed, or is it time for retirement? Should we close down our organizations, or is there still something to do for us? Let's begin, as I've presented you, Robert Hojda, to the Constitution, one of the most renowned initiatives promoting democracy in Poland, and president of Active Democracy Foundation. This is a very simple question on one hand side, but on the other, it's difficult. Because when it comes to 8 years, during the law and justice rule, the 8 years for sure taught us, I hope, at least that's how I see it, at the end they taught us that we as a society, a civic society, have to cooperate, no matter who in functions in which social or civic organization. This is a plus. During the 8 years, we have also been through a very difficult path of sacrifices on health, finances, family, our own time, work, and all that a person who loves the country and really cares about the country without any ideologies that we don't need, so that our Poland would be developing. I know people, and here I'm heading to 15th of October, I know people who, when choosing, that took part on 15th of October last year, there were people who said, that's enough. I got to the end point, I will not do any more. Democracy is there in Poland already. My take on it is slightly different, because after the difficult years of sacrifice, on the 15th of October, thanks to our engagement in defending democracy, voting so numerously, winning it, we should have said, hooray, we finally managed to push through the closed door and to open it up in order to enter now the room and put furniture in it. This requires engagement of us all, because this is our space. And it would be difficult to picture that we could leave someone behind and say, all right, if you've resigned, then we are going to organize our Poland for you. Bearing in mind our experience, I would rather take it further and use it in creating. So let's not stop cooperating. Let's keep on developing the cooperation, because finally we have an option to do so. It's important. Thank you, Robert. Piotr Łopaciuk, the civic activist, organizer, and creator of the Volatile Opposition Brigade. Those were exhausting years, very stressful years, and very costly years, but when it comes to emotions and finances, both. I guess this is all I want to say, but I represent the small group that decided that we already got to our finish line and we have achieved our goal, and it's time to leave the floor. What was the main driver of our activities has been achieved with our participation, meaning Kaczyński gave the power away, and that's enough. I will keep on asking you about the forms of activities, because Robert is traveling all over Poland. Volatile Opposition Brigade is a beautiful tradition of political happening, so we have to mention about Łódź Kaliska, as we are in Łódź. I am a combatant of the Orange Alternative, and I am a combatant, and I'm getting financial compensation from the government of Poland because of it. So I'm going to ask you which hits were the most painful to law and justice, which were the most efficient. But let's also speak about code of democracy, because the first result, political result, was that COD showed up. And the fact that COD showed up was saying that political parties are not managing, that we can no longer only count on opposition country parties. There needs to be something more than that. Do you agree? Motivation so that my personal life would move to the street, because this was what was happening in the first years of COD. I come from Gdańsk, so in Pomeranian voivodeship, I was operating there on the streets in the first years. Later on, we started to cooperate with other organizations in the offices, but our motivation were emotions, first of all. I didn't want to sit in front of a TV and shout to my furnitures. I needed to do something. And I felt rebellious, nervous. I wanted to protest. I wanted to disagree. And those were the initial emotions. Only after some time, I felt the community. I felt that when we are together in a group, then it's nicer, that my energy is not only towards hatred, but also towards noticing another human being with similar views. And it at all, because there was a question regarding what has not been achieved, what didn't work out. So in here I would like to mention that I wanted to be with my people, that the other ones on the other side felt so remote to us. We were so closed in our bubbles. I understand myself and thousands of my colleagues in Poland, because many times we've been offended. We've been shooed away and maltreated. I never offended anyone on the street, and I've been offended when I was standing on a stage or under a stage, no matter. Even when I was just holding a flag or a word constitution, and they were offending me, and this way we got polarized to a bigger extent, for sure. This is a price, but let me add another question to you. as you're my colleague from COD, why didn't you enroll to one of many opposition parties, but you went out to the street and you showed the word constitution, you showed COD? We wouldn't have to create anything. We have already structures. We've decided something's wrong about them, that they lost Poland and that we have to take things into our hands. Do you agree? Well, in our case, the political PR is not good in our country. It's something that needs to be changed. So I was going there with such a belief that I am not willing to be a politician, but to say no on the street, very much so, yes. At the beginning, it seemed to me that my actions are not political, and then it turned out I'm in the very middle of politics. Well, maybe not the most important, but as citizens are in the center of the policy. And this gave me a feeling of agency, better than probably if I would be a member of a party at the very bottom. I would have to wait for long years in order to start being visible and active in a party. I wanted to have more agency than that. We've had a feeling of agency despite for the fact that it took such a long time, but I will tell you more about it later. Agnieszka, you paid a horrible price in the 8 years. No. The comments? No, I must say that I paid the smallest price. Because on one hand side, I am also functioning internationally, so it's not like they could have sunk one boat and I would sink with it. So I am in a luxurious situation, a more luxurious situation than most of my colleagues are filmmakers. This is why.
No matter that I had very clear ideas about what is collaboration with evil, what is a contradiction of certain values on which artist or creator should defend and stand for, I never condemned or never convinced my colleagues not to work for Polish televisions, for instance, not to produce TV series, not to receive financing from there. It was clear that Polish Institute of Film Arts, which is compulsory element of founding films in Poland, is directed by a person who is just an executor of a will of previously ruling party. We tried to file some motions there, request something, but I could not do what I did. Zielona Granica, Green Border, is a film that was co-financed without Law and Justice Party or a Ministry of Culture, of course. It wouldn't be possible, but most of my colleagues wouldn't be able to produce a film like that without such a support. So I must say that my position was quite comfortable, luxurious, and maybe that also gave me some a kind of courage, boldness. I knew that they can't do too much to me. Of course, at the point when our film confronted with the comments of law and justice authorities, then this organized hate on my movie and my few colleagues, of course it focused mainly on me, it was unprecedented. And even during a communist time, and I have a bigger generational experience than you here, even in 1968, I think there was no such case that top power representatives of state and party representatives to attack in such aggressive way one artist. Because I received from Zbigniew Ziobro, who started through president, and this quote that only pigs sit in a cinema. So you sitting with me in one cinema room, you could also be labeled like that. Then after Prime Minister, well, I will not mention all these people. I was, all of them, Hitler, Goebbels and others, more educated ones called me some other names: Stalin, Putin at the same time, a traitor, a knife to the back of Polish army, and so on. It was so dangerous because this hate immediately resonated in social media and in all other medias, and I started to receive some threats and other nasty words. And after experience of Gdańsk and President Adamowicz, of course not after only that, it's clear that words can be reforged into actions, especially if some unstable person believes in them. So I spent weeks around the premiere with a very nice one from Lodz, by the way, security men, and it was an interesting experience that in my own country you have to walk with security, not being a politician or a head of some huge corporation. But it was also an experience knowing that our distributor wouldn't have enough money to promote my movie so effectively as President Duda did it. So, in fact, business-wise, we were definitely grateful to him. Well, yes, but those are times of Gomulka when specific artists are mentioned by name. I mean, Szpotański as an enemy of the state. But Ms. Agnieszka, yes, it was like just an introduction. I spent so much time talking about myself, just not to become a national hero that I'm not. You are, Agnieszka, because this is an unprecedented situation when state authority attack specific artists for specific piece. But I must say that the new power also does similar, maybe not such aggressive way, but then I faced also some not so pleasant comments from current ruling. But that's a fate of independent people, I believe, people that are not under any party discipline or some ideological mist. We need to look at the reality critically, I believe. It is my role as a creator, as an artist, and like as an organization, non-governmental organization, or a civic organization. Well, because we are not in paradise, and we will never be. If we managed to fight back some space or some liberty, we can as easily lose it back. And thanks to Robert and thanks to Piotr. I mean, thank you for your, first of all, patience, persistence, because this short acting was a problematic one-time action. We were on the streets already. We don't have to go again. As a contrary to what peace did quite effectively, these monthly meetings. So your brigade, Volatile Brigade, was something similar, effective, that you have to persistently fight, and this persistence, I believe, with time it built capacity for our resistance not to burn out, not to fade. It was fading a bit, of course, but there were always some from you who always started these sparks back. It was very important in this resistance, and it's not that we can now just retire. It's not that new political class, then opposition, and now ruling ones. They are not so different mentally or characters-wise. Subordination to leader, to party, which is accepted by people In here, it is a kind of a political culture, and the question is, how can we change that? People are still not free. People still feel subordinate in a way, feel that they are clients of some party authorities. Sometimes it is necessary in the moment of some big mobilization, but in a time when we're supposed to build a fabric of a civic society, of any other fabric, it becomes dangerous. Just dangerous. And this is something I witness now, without symmetricism, of course. I don't want to say that it's exactly the same or something similar, but threats are similar. And actually they can lead to similar effects. So it's so important for us to critically look at what they are doing, what they are saying, those who are now in power. And as a symbol of that are recent weeks, when Donald Tusk jumped out to please many, covering Kaczynski's competences with an idea to freeze asylum right, so to break Polish constitution, Geneva Convention, couple of rules of European Union, and so on. It turned out that it resonates, that it's a great idea, that we did not analyze it critically, what it really is. Does it really enforces our safety, or is it about migrants' crises, or some humanitarian crises, or some political crisis? Because in my opinion, and opinion of many international specialists on migration, the crisis we have in Europe and on the border between US and Mexico is a political crisis. It's a response of democracy to a populistic ideas, because if we go to numbers, it turns out that it's not such a big threat. If we look at how many motions to receive asylum was from last year, it was 8,000, from which most of them it was Ukrainians, Belarusians or Russians. And those with other skin color from other border, it was like maybe 20%. So those numbers are so insignificant, in fact, non-relevant. So canceling this right or freezing this right, and border guard is not using this right at all. It's not a solving of this doubtful, undoubtful threat from the side of Putin or Lukashenko on our eastern border, but we start to do harm to constitution and conventions that were probably the biggest achievement of Europe after Second World War. And after, when we start to rip constitution, it means that it turns out that it rips very easily. And right now, Mr. Kaczynski or his colleagues can speak in the protection of constitution, and we don't have arguments, because it's difficult to protect what we protected for 8 years, when it turns out that our prime minister of our government so easily rape constitution just to get some benefits. Of course, these ideas are much deeper and more complicated, but nevertheless they are political. So if there are no people, if there are no groups that now say stop, we can't agree. We can't proceed to change the law to depenalize killing people. We cannot freeze constitution, suspend it. If there are no people like that, it soon will turn out that those who started this kind of narrative, those who had this nationalistic agenda of fear, that they will again win, because they were legitimized by us. We agreed that these values that we called for these 8 years are not so relevant. And then it will turn out that they were first and they were more credible. of course, the farthest, the strongest. Now, women, so hated by peace, by Law and Justice Party, I don't think there is a success after 15th October. This fight continues. Of course, the fight continues. Where these women's strikes came from, we were just pissed off what peace started to do in 2016. I can say that a censorship of my activity was, in a way, year 2020, because after COVID and after strikes, in a way, law and justice stopped to do a harm to bring us on streets again, to piss us off again. But the vast majority of our work was to help women to get to access to abortion. And just like we started Abortion Dream Team, and also this case was spreaded between many other female organizations, and when we started to create support networks, places, normally girls would just write to us on Facebook, on groups. And after the election, for us, nothing changed, because politicians, of course, still talking about this subject. All the sides of political field talked about that. It was a very convenient subject before the election. You could talk a lot about that during the campaign. Also, the groups like Women's Strike and our organization organized campaigns to reach young women, girls, to encourage them to go and vote. It was bad. It can be even worse. I just choose women's rights, so I go to vote. And these young girls went there, they voted, and what happened? We are a year after the election, and these promises, we don't see them. Those are still some political fears, trades. There are all the time some discussions. One election was a problem, then second one, then third one. We don't know what happens next with the third elections. So one thing is, should we still look for our tasks for us? Is it better or worse? I can say, well, it's worse. Because why? Because we have the same amount of work when it comes financing from abroad to support women that go abroad for abortion, because that's first of all this problem. The organizations, Western grant givers, they believe the problem is solved in Poland because we have now new great democratic government. We have no problem. We don't need support. So that's one of the problems on why it is worse. Also, our ruling persons, Minister Leszczyna, remind doctors what law is in force and how to apply it, because except for this third amendment that is now went away, is similar to what they have in Great Britain. To identify a pregnancy with defects can be a threat for health, because it is a threat to health of women. This abortion could be done as well. So that was some plus, but a minus are guidelines of Mr. Bodnar, who decided, Ministry of Justice decided to support prosecutors in the regard how to find out and how to proceed situation if there is a suspicion on providing help with abortion from Article 152 of Penalty Code.
And what has not been there before, but now it is a very good instruction for the prosecutors how that they are supposed to take away a mobile phone and laptop away from the woman, that maybe she should show the pregnancy test, and it all has to be done with dignity and reminding a woman that she has not committed any crime. So it's a regress. Most of this Trump in the United States and more and more states that are denying right for abortion, Afghanistan, Russia, and other countries that are limiting women's rights. What do we plan to do about it? Because we are with you, even though it's like a Freud quote. Do you feel that Robert Hojda and co are supporting you? Do you feel that Volatile Brigade is supporting you, or do you feel lonely? We've been together on the streets, fighting for democracy, for women's rights, for courts. But, you know, I don't live in Poland now, and my activities now are via Facebook and lobby activity. So what we need to do is that all the groups should remind, hey, politicians, those were the topics that you were working with. I know it's great that it's better than it used to be when peace was there, but let's still remember about those topics. What you said about Bodnar, I'm sorry, but I'm a lawyer by profession. You don't have to do it. Don't show anything, deny, and so on and so forth. You are informed, and the things that you're informed about, just don't listen to it because, well, maybe I know, but there is plenty of other people who don't. So undressing women and other derogatory behaviors like this, it's against human rights. No one can expect things like this from you. To the extent we can, we are writing about it on Facebook and Instagram. This is about the coverage we have. So now the question is, что делать, as Lenin asked. So Agnieszka, I will begin with you, if you allow me, because I believe that your movie and art is so potent, thousands times more impact than our happenings, demonstrations, and so on and so forth. A good picture of a Vietnamese lady being harmed. Kaczynski reminded about this issue that Americans lost war in Vietnam because they allowed media there and people saw the pictures and Americans said, oh my God, it's not our war. Kaczynski reminded it in the context of a ban on the Polish-Belarusian border and the ban on allowing activists, volunteers and doctors, but also media, to this strip. So to do it as if nothing. So what do we do to get artists interested in the human rights? I don't want it to sound like communistic approach, but I have my personal reflection because in the 80s I watched Your Lonely Woman and Kill the Priest, and then it was silence in the room. One of my colleagues said, so what do we do now? Let's go burn down a committee. So the power of culture is something that we cannot overvalue. And I have a feeling that during the 8 years, there was a defense of people of culture, that everyone was sucking up to the law and justice and to the Ministry of Culture to get grants. What do we do to get people of culture interested rather than forced? Take the benefits. Some things are undoable without money. Maastricht, a creator of film music, recorded music to the Human Rights Declaration. He created a symphony, so an attempt of showing it in which never interested him. And there isn't it a topic for artists, human rights? Artists were also always sensitive to it to an extent. They are on the right side. There are not many artists, but there are some. Not many follow nationalistic or fascists or anti-equality views. There are not many of them, but there they don't feel that they have to talk about it because it's very important. And that we are in the time of history when those values are deadly in threat. We don't only need to talk about reality which is related to those threats, not only talk about the stories of particular people who are victims of the bad system, to put it in general way. To have an imagination which shows where we're heading, whether this is a utopia, when it's an authentic artistic imagination, it opens up new horizons. I don't see it right now, and I agree with you. So I think that this is signum temporis, that in Europe, in the rich countries where we have the support system, it's not like artists have plenty of money, they are richer. Usually they are barely making it, with exception for the celebrities and influencers. People who are devoting their lives to culture and art are not rich, but maybe there are some commodities, some things are too easy. When I'm looking at my colleagues, that they are lazy. Even at the times of law and justice, I know personally pretty much all the Polish filmmakers alive. And I know that really 95% out of them had very similar vision and reaction to the government back then. And how many voices were there that were openly against several actors? Olga Tokarczuk. Between filmmakers, Andrzej Saramanowicz. And I guess that's it. And Agnieszka Holland. During the war, we were boycotting it. It was very important. It started when over 50% of society supported actively the government going for local free elections and voting again for Andrzej Duda. You really have to be crazy if you are to rebel openly, if there is something that you can lose. Okay, so what's next about us? I am sure that our activities, our protests have given an incentive to the society from our organization. We have created plenty of other organizations. I will not pretend to be humble. That's simply what I think. But it's not yet done, the job. We still have to give incentives to the society. For many years, we've been observing all the elections in the country, and we still are planning to do so. We've been observing the government. We've been rebelling against what it was doing, and we still will. We still are going to look at the hands of the government. We are looking at the hands of the government right now, too. The situation which Agnieszka Holland spoke about on the border regarding migrants, within 48 hours from the moment we wrote the declaration, tens of NGOs subscribed to it and gave their signature. So it's not only about shaping opinions, but also networking, also cooperation with other organizations. Because no one managed to fight for anything win anything in a fight alone. Soon we are going to observe presidential elections. When observing elections, it's not only about observing election process, but it's also about activities that are for raising number of people who are voting. And do we know how many constitutions we have handed out? I don't know, but 28,000 of observers lately. But how many constitutions have we handed out? We haven't been counting it. I have such huge muscles after dragging all those boxes. So the Volatile Opposition Brigade has nothing to laugh at anymore. I don't have the strength to laugh, even though there might be still something to laugh at. We were worn out to a very big extent. Small group of people who was a pain for the former government, and I want to notice on the example of my experiences that the really important group in the future activities is to match the method. It has to be very often controversial, not conventional and new. Because of that, cause as big as possible range of or coverage of its mission. There always is a mission, there always is a goal that we want to achieve. So not to get burnt out in it, we have to constantly be gaining momentum, and very often we are lacking the momentum and speed. We've decided that we can no longer be a brigade of opposition because right now Kaczynski is the opposition. That would be a cool happening. You would be an honorable member. I am feeling so bad when I'm calling Law and Justice the opposition, because to me they are still a bunch of thieves and they don't deserve to be called opposition. They shouldn't be treated this way, but unfortunately they are. In which we've created as a yellow alternative a joint list together with Love and Justice, and the leader was Zorro. Second place was for the Miś Uszatek, which is the citizen of Łódź. Who is the citizen of Łódź?
Something crossed my mind, a quotation. Unfortunately, I'm not sure about the source and what exactly it referred word by word, but if bad and dishonest people combine, then good people and honest people have to do the same. Wrote Robert Tur, the human rights, China, Tajikistan. What do you think? Can you repeat the question? Well, I'm saying like that because perversely, because there are different places in the world. They impact how we operate in our country, what decisions our government make. But my point of view is, my opinion is that on our playground we have a lot to do. We have also a big experience that we can use, so that we remember also about that. Since we heard a quote, I will also use a quote that we as a fount of active democracy bring all the time with us, and we transfer this to young ones because we also visit schools. We want to press and show how important it is to talk to young people. We mainly target high schools. These people soon will be voting. So, and I want you to hear this quote. It sounds like that. If you know the author, please let me know. There will be an award. It's never that we don't have any influence. Even if you feel helpless or forceless, it never justifies doing nothing. Henryk Wujec. And you know, those are words that cover everything. Henryk said it like that, and it does not require anything to add, anything to complete. I just want to say how relevant it is for me. For me, it's a big privilege, and it makes me happy that together with people who are here today, we cooperate with the foundation. I would like you to show up. Those are these four people around: Kinga, Dagmara Siedlak, Klara Nadolska, Magda Bartosiewicz. Show yourself, please. This is a composition, among others, of our foundation. Dear ladies, and a big respect to you. I'm really glad that you are here because everything actually bases on you. It's you who so persistently work. Thanks to you, it all happens. I have certain regret to men, I'm men myself, that they like to be on the first place, wherever you can get an order, some good position, some award, and ladies are somewhere put aside. Whereas, indeed, it's due to your persistence, we can do some great things. And in this team, I'm sorry, Adam, I didn't mention you, but in this team, first of all, are ladies, and I wanted to mention also Danuta Przywara. She is also a head of Helsinki Council for Human Rights, Foundation for Human Rights. She goes with us visiting schools, and 2 times we encircled a globe. We gave away hundreds, thousands of leaflets and constitutions printed out. I will not mention other things that we give away, but what's most important is that we talk to citizens face to face, that we have direct contact. Ms. Ewa Topór-Nawarecka, she's with us today. She also supported us in many different meetings. Thank you also for being with us, and I hope that you will remain with us. Yes, please, applause, of course. Agnieszka Holland, I don't need to mention because it was not one time that she helped us. I also wanted to go back to the schools, but authoritarian power of the organizers show me a sign that, because there are still questions. Okay, just a few words about our youth. Ladies and gentlemen, when we hear about youth is not interested, they have their own things to do, they are not interested in future of Poland. That's not true. They are really interested, they are open for new knowledge. It's just a matter of how we talk to them. Do we pay respect to them? Do we listen to what they say to us? Do we give space to them so that they have right to express their opinion? Those are very basic things. After our meetings, that we have a huge privilege to organize in high schools, we receive very good opinions. We are invited again to come and visit, and it's not the matter of difference of age between us. It's just 30th article of Constitution that speaks about dignity, respecting mutual respect. If we remember these things, I assure you, no matter the age or generation or education gap or how much money everyone has, it's all not so important. We can all build a beautiful Poland. Let's just believe ourselves, our capacity. Let's read constitutions. It should be like a holy Bible for a citizen. I will just end that in a common declaration of human rights, there is a position that everyone can check a place of residence. So it's one of the basic rights, human rights. Colleagues from Lodge Peace, I'm sorry for this. Well, from Peace as well. Well, I hope, but Janusz Nagiecki, I got you enlisted to Peace. It's because this Volatile Opposition Brigade that served now Kaczynski, I believe. Okay. Hello, my name is Julek Gajek. When Peace was getting to power, I was 10, maybe 11. And during last 8 years, I saw how this country changed. I live abroad now, and I saw all that, like from outside, from the perspective. I'm from far, right? And the next year, it will be my first vote, my first election when I can take part, and I'm interested in that. I want to help my country, and I wanted to ask how, as a young person, I can be involved in organizations like that, or generally. Well, in organizations. That's my question. Can I answer? We have young COD, Committee of Democratic Protection. For many years we thought how to attract youngs. They have their own organizations, they have their needs. Let's put aside these youngs, but they will definitely activate. But we have young activists, it's all established, so please join us. Now, Marcin Święcicki, I have a question about young people. You said that you visited schools. I also visited some schools in Warsaw. Recently, there was a research that showed that 50% of men under 40 support Confederation. With women, we know the message. We don't. And what's happening with these young men under 40? Do you have any diagnosis or what should be done? I will say shortly. Yes, definitely. This research proves what happens in high schools and higher education facilities when it comes to pro-fascist attitudes. It's very dangerous. There should be alarms and all bells should ring in all the country. What happens is that young people very eagerly join these nationalistic, fascist groups, and they go very smoothly, fit very smoothly inside. So I believe that mission, well, we can't do much. It's just a drop in an ocean of needs. So teachers, Ministry of Education, what Ministry of Education prepared, I talked to teachers. It's nothing really. Don't expect big changes. Young people do different things, but I believe that it would be also good to support, because the fact that youngs fight for its future, its climate, but the support from government is not there. They don't receive it. And there has to be support for organizations, our older organizations, to support their fight, their struggle. So also to say to a young person, look for organizations or groups that around your circle of interests, or open Instagram or TikTok account and just talk to them. And on TikTok, the Confederation is most active on TikTok. 2 questions, Arek Szturek, Janusz, and then we have to finish. I'm sorry. My name is Janusz Nagiecki. I'm a member of COD in Ludzki region. And I have a question to all of you. If we go outside the streets of our cities and ask people, pass-byers, citizens, what they think about politicians and politics, most often from our experience of standing on the street, you know what, they all have this money, it's nothing for a decent person. Policy is not a place for decent person. I have a question to you. Don't you think that until we change this, we can't make the best people go to policy, the most competent, most ethical? But because then, not just in Poland, but in the whole camp of liberal democracy countries, there is a threat of peace return. Because in fact, authoritarian party is built on violence, on police, on services. Democracy has just citizens. How to change that? Well, no one will give you an answer, honestly, because then we would need to completely change a political culture and deeply rooted mentality, not only in post-communist countries where it is stronger, which is visible on an example of Orban, how Kaczynski won, how Fico won again. But it's also wider, because where there is this authoritarian party leadership, these parties are not so rooted, even those traditionally long existing. Without a charismatic leader with power, they lose. Something happened that reality is so complicated that only these populist leaders that say we have solution and we know where evil is, evil is among women, refugees, LGBT, and so on. So you just need to follow them. If you look at main problems against the left, is that they don't have a leader. Indeed, their leadership is so-so. In other parties, we have leaders. So what can I see now? We have members, high rank from civic platform or civic coalition. I stand next to them in demonstrations on the stages during these 8 years. What they say now, in what they get as a daily message or weekly message, and what they said a year ago or 2 years ago, it's completely different thing. If I was to apply AI, that would very swiftly change voice modulation, and if I use voice of Blaszczak on a nowadays power leader, it would be exactly the same. But shouldn't that be a task for culture? Franz Maurer in 1991 said, "I can be a criminal but not a politician." So maybe if culture, I mean, there is no authorities like that from culture, there can't be a good movie about good politician, no chance. We did with my sister and daughter in 2007 TV show Ekipa that showed how policy should look like in a certain attractive way, because it was well-made TV show, convincing. We showed that it can be, that it's fascinating work, it's very responsible, and this common good can be a main drive for policy. I think it would be difficult now to make people believe in this kind of TV show. Two voices there. Yes, hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Basia from Wrocław. I was really glad to hear this young voice of a person that wants to get engaged, involved. I have memories myself from protests of judicial system defense. Now I'm a bit older than then I was 17. Now I work on threats to democracy. But in this context, I wanted to ask my question. Of course, this activity that we do, that we did, and that you keep doing, it helps us to think that if in the future we have similar threats, I'm not saying that it would be peace going back to power, but nevertheless, these threats of populism and authoritarian threats are still present, and they take new, more visible forms. I wish we are wiser on this experience, because we saw already how these rights and freedoms are taken away, so society will not be tricked again. Yet we are worried, seriously worried, that they will be tricked, because these groups that were put away from power in Poland, but in other countries as well, know exactly what to do to go back stronger and more covered in their authoritarian tendencies. There is my question. How now we can act, considering that this momentum is smaller? The main task was already done. Right now, everyone would like to sit and enjoy coffee in a free Poland. However, we somewhere remember that these threats can be completely different. We might not recognize them, they can be completely different. So what is a possible strategy to work so not allow the situation when this kind of tendencies can go back to policy? Because we can enjoy success, but it has a bittersweet taste, because we know what stands behind on the future, and that's where I'm worried.
I think those will not be entirely new. Well, of course, there are certain moves. There are institutes for public opinion surveys, but what peace did and what doesn't allow the government to function efficiently, they have dismantled and all the institutions and the whole way of shaping legal framework of a state. Whatever you do, you are ending up on a mine, and at the very end of the field, there is the super mine, Duda, and there is nothing you can do. So it's not only lack of efficiency and the fact that people are getting discouraged, but they showed that law doesn't have to really count, that we can really dismantle things, that we can lie, that we can use demagogy and other techniques of scapegoats and fear, that we can pretend. We can do everything that peace used to do. This is what the development of authoritarian regime is, that each and single time the Democrats are learning the same methods that we used to condemn. And with every next round, we are drifting further and further away from democracy and from constitution and from everything we spoke about at the beginning. What do we do? Not follow this lead, maintain the awareness that those values are not abstract, that it's not only beautiful picture, that it's not just artificial, but those are the only guarantee of our life and our future. That when everything is under the rule of politics, but political tactics rather than strategies, then we will not win over the evil power. It all is true because the spiral is spinning. But on the other hand side, the democratic values are creeped already. They are being attacked, under attack everywhere, with this whole demagogy, simplification, the herbal treatments, recipes for every situation. To defend somehow, we need to use certain mechanisms of the other side, meaning constant attack, which is ongoing in the name of artificially good aims, but at the end those are meant to destroy democracy. So now last question and then a round of applause and time for signatures. So I would like to underline one thing at the beginning. I've been in the volatile part of Brigade of Opposition, and that during the vote didn't want to finish our activity because nothing, well, not much to me personally, not much has changed. After the elections, we have peace, law and justice. That to an extent when won the elections when it comes to percentages. They are well prepared, and we don't know what's next on the presidential elections. They dug in very well. I don't want to pose a question, but rather I want to conclude. That's probably a conclusion from the conversation you've had, reading about new tasks for pro-democracy organizations. I believe there are no new tasks. Every organization should operate as they feel best in and encourage others, because we are all the time on this thin line and we don't know who is going to win next year. It might not all work out, and we will should do that way, and we'll be all happily ever after. There is the matter of abortion, and I encourage you all not to request too much from politicians. Of course, you should be asking them for a lot, but politicians in the time of so-called post-politics, it says that politicians are doing what people want or what they think they should. So if we change opinions of people, then this is the key, because politicians will adapt. I am sure that if 60% of people were in favor of abortion in Poland, then peace, 80%, let's say. So then law and justice would agree to the basic human rights, such as right to remove a pregnancy. I believe so. And then peace, law and justice would also be in favor of it. That's my conclusion at the very end. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're noting down that Kaczyński should be now a member of Volatile Brigade of Opposition. Thank you very much for the questions. Thank you to the speakers.
Rodzina spółek Pelion to 12 000 osób pracujących w ponad 300 spółkach w Polsce, Szwecji, Wielkiej Brytanii i na Litwie. Jesteśmy liderem w branży ochrony zdrowia. Od 1990 roku dbamy o długość i jakość życia. Pracować z nami możesz w jednym z 7 obszarów.
Czy wytrzymasz klockowe tortury? Ze stoickim spokojem. Czy w twardych negocjacjach zachowasz zimną krew? Czy poddasz się dobrowolnej eksmisji ze swojego łóżka? Brawo! Test na obecność serca zaliczony. To znaczy, że ty też możesz być rodzicem zastępczym. Dowiedz się jak na testserca.pl.
Polskie Radio.
Jedynka.
Zapraszamy do Trójki. Od nowa.
Trójka. Program Trzeci Polskiego Radia.
Plany biznesowe powstają z marzeń. Dlatego nie ma dwóch takich samych firm. Jedni chcą działać na całym świecie. Innym cały świat mieści się w dłoni. Sukces biznesu to nie tylko jego wielkość, ale też szczęście, jakie przynosi ludziom. PKO Bank Polski.
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it and how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Uwielbiam szycie w sieci. Wczoraj podszyłem się pod wnuczka, wieczorem uszyłem intrygę na apce randkowej, a dziś planuję grubymi nićmi szyte oszustwo z promocją. Tak się szyje.
Na oszustów są sposoby. Zapoznaj się z poradami ekspertów na niedajsiepodszyć.pl.
Jedzą kanapki z kawiorem.
Nadzwyczajna kasa.
Obrażanie dziennikarzy telewizji polskiej.
Chodzi o działania polityczne.
Przygotowanie ofiar dla pedofilów.
Für Deutschland.
TVP Info. Włącz się na nowo.
Radość, nadzieja, życie, wyzwanie, pasja, pamięć, zaufanie, pokój, jedność. Słowa tworzą świat. Polskie Radio. Źródło wiarygodnych informacji.